All right, I'd like to call this hearing of the Jobs and Labor, Commerce, and Energy Conference Committee to order. Today is Tuesday, May 17th. Members, we have some articles to adopt today, and maybe we can get a motion and then have nonpartisan explain what we're adopting. Looking for my agenda. Do we have a printed agenda? Okay. So Representative Noor, would you move adoption of the A22 amendment, which would be the labor and industry policy and technical revisions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I move A220478 to amend Senate File 4091.
47? I got,
Was,
oh wait, 481.
sorry, I move A220481. Sorry about that.
Okay. Could we have nonpartisan go through the amendment? Whether it's Ms. Shalene or,
Mr. Chair, members, I can go through the labor and industry, and then Ms. Shalene will go through the workforce jobs portion. So
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members, the first section of Article 1, Labor and Industry Policy and Technical is, this adopts on page 3. This would incorporate language regarding window cleaning safety. It would allow the commissioner to adopt rules using the expedited rulemaking process, and this was House language as it came into the conference committee. Section 2, this makes some changes to the fee schedule for building permit fees, and this would make these changes retroactive to October 1st, 2021. You'll see that on page 4, line 24. And then it would have the building fees expire on October 1st of 2023. This was also House language. The Senate made it permanent, but the House has it going, the reductions until 2023. The next section, section 3 on the bottom of page 4, sections 3 to 5. This is the elevator code changes that were made in the labor bill. And there are only slight differences between the Senate and House language. This is the Senate language to adopt those elevator code changes. On page 5, section 6 and section 7 on page 6, these are some changes that would allow certain work, on load control work, to be exempted from electrical inspections. And it's basically, it's very similar to the way it came into the conference committee. This is mostly Senate language with some modifications. Specifically on the bottom of page 6, it requires, both the House and Senate did require this work to be done by Class A electrical contractors. Then it does specify that this is only for work on electric utilities that are not public utilities, so co-ops and municipal electric utilities. And then the work needs to be done before December 31st of 2030. I think the House bill had it going until only 2027. So this was the language that was agreed to for the expiration of this exemption in 2030. On page 7, this language, section 8, it was the same in both the House and the Senate. So it eliminates an amount to the Bureau of Mediation Services that specified it was for money for grants to area labor management committees. And then section 9, it was the same language in both bills, and this simply clarifies some effective dates for the Workers' Compensation Advisory Council bill. And that is everything that was in the labor article for the agreement.
Sorry, any questions on the amendment? Okay. Seeing none, I think we'll take a House vote and a Senate vote. All those on the House in favor, signify by saying aye.
Mr. Chair, we have got Article 2, which Ms. Charlene will go through.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Ms. Shalene? It sounds like Ms. Shalene's having a hard time with her audio. Hearing?
Do you have houses streaming this right now? Do you want to ask them? I don't know who has the technical.
Okay.
Oh,
Right.
the audio in the room is not working. Is the audio in the room to hear online?
So she can hear us? All right, we'll have Ms. Doyle Fontaine go through Article 2 until we can get the audio fixed in the room for Ms. Shalene. Ms. Doyle Fontaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. I will then go through Article 2, which is the Economic Development Policy. Section 1 is a new requirement that would have DEED annually create a list of reports that were mandated in the last 3 years, and then if they don't have a useful purpose anymore, they would provide a list of those reports and an explanation of why they should be eliminated. And they would have to do that each year beginning in 2023. This is House language with a few technical changes. The Senate didn't have this in their belt. Section 2 was a Senate-only provision, so this is Senate language. This would require the Commissioner of DEED, when they're awarding competitive grants for job training, that they should give priority to those job training programs that are high-wage, high-demand careers. Section 3 was contained in, I think it was in both bills. But this would require for the community energy transition grants, it would allow the Commissioner of DEED to transfer some of the money to the Environmental Quality Board to to do some technical assistance for the communities, and also specifies some uses of how the grants awarded to communities may be used. Section 4 on the bottom of page 8, this simply clarifies that for the contamination cleanup program, that federally recognized tribes are eligible to participate in that program. And this was the same language in both the House and Senate. Section 5 on page 9 is amends the definition of what is a qualified job training program, and to include support services, and gets rid of the income supplements dollar amount on line 9.15 and 9.16. Section 6, these are all, sections 5, 6, and 7 are all for the Pay for Performance program. And then in section 6, this requires that the job placement must average at least 32 hours per week. And also specifies some language regarding placements and retention of records by the grantees, and makes these subject to requirements that are in statute for grants management. Section 7 requires the pay-for-performance grantees to retain their records and have them available for inspection, and then that they need to retain the records for, according to the statutes that is cited there. In Section 8, this is Senate language, and this, let me see here. Oh, this is, specifies over on page 11 on line 11.28. It just clarifies that federal loan funds that come from the Department of Treasury are not subject to business subsidy requirements, and this was Senate language that's being included. On page 12, we have, this makes a technical, or this is a change to the Partners and Pathways program to clarify that tribal-owned businesses and municipal and county hospitals can also participate in the Pathways program. And this was Senate language. This is the way, both the House and Senate contain this language, but this is the Senate language that is being included here. On the bottom of page 10, page 12, section 10, is, this is simply a technical change you'll see on the, this is for the dislocated worker program, a technical change on, it's really grammatical on lines 13.23. And I believe this was contained in this, both the House and the Senate. So it's the same language in both. On page 14, section 11, this changes the definition of credential. This is just a technical change. On the bottom of page 14, section 12, this was a Senate-only provision regarding the uniform outcome report card that is required from DEED. And this would require the commissioner, you'll see on page 15, to provide, when they submit the report, they need to provide a list of any grant recipients that did not satisfy the reporting requirements during the reporting period. And thus, they would not be eligible to receive grants in the next grant cycle. And that is the end of the economic development policy.
Thank you. Is Ms. Shalene with us? I just want to make sure that if we can hear her, she doesn't have anything to add.
Chair and members, yes, you have the sound working now. Congratulations.
Awesome.
And Ms. Doyle-Fontaine did an excellent job with the walkthrough. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on either of the articles? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take a vote on each side. We'll start with the House. All those in favor on the House side, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And on the Senate side, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. I think the next amendment we have, Representative Stevenson, did you want to move the A49 amendment?
Mr. Chair, I think I need to move adoption of language out of the House bill first and then the amendment. Is that right? I have a motion here to adopt House language, Article 28, Section 60, and then I move the A49.
Okay, we have a motion to move that House language as explained by Representative Stevenson. Any discussion? Okay. Representative Swazinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just Rep. Stevenson, could you maybe explain that here? That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the HOA notice provisions. It requires HOAs to provide notice upon levying a fine and sets up the manner to do that. There's an amendment that makes clear that the notice requirement doesn't obviate the need of the homeowner to comply with the rules.
Okay. On that motion, we'll take a vote on the House side first. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on the House. All those on the Senate in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries on the Senate. The motion's adopted.
And Mr. Chair, I would move the A49 amendment, which amends the A28, Section 60, that is in front of us. And this is, as I mentioned to Representative Swazinski, language that makes clear that homeowners still have to comply with the rules.
Okay? Any discussion on the A49 amendment? Okay, seeing none, we'll do the House vote again first. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries on the House. All those in favor on the Senate signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries in the Senate. The motion is adopted. Any other motions? Okay. Seeing none. Senator St. John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have some in energy. Representative Long and I are connecting, and I think I just got a note for him indicating it was all right to proceed with several that we've agreed to. And first of all, I'm not sure how to articulate these. It has to do with a $1 million threshold for PUC approval relative to utilities, and it's accepting of House language on R40, 22925 to 230.8. I would move that if that's an acceptable motion.
I'm sorry, Senator St. John, what were those?
So we'll go to R40, 229.25 to 230.8.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Bob Eliff from House Research.
yes. Go ahead, you.
I believe the language that Senator St. John is moving is actually on page R41 rather than R40.
Okay. So I have section 13, line number 229.25 on R41 to, what was the last reference?
Mr. Chair, 229.25 to 230.8 on R41.
Okay. So adopting section 13, lines 229.25 to 230.8 in the House version. Is that the motion as I understand?
That is motion, Mr. Chair.
And Senator St. John, can you just give a brief description on what we're adopting?
Mr. Chair and members, this has to do with a threshold which public utilities have to meet relative to proceeding to POC approval. In other words, any project that is in the framework of a utility, public utility, up to $1 million now would not have to go to the PUC for approval. Heretofore, it was $100,000. And that was, understand, that threshold, I believe, goes back many, many years. I want to say into the 70s, but I'll just say many, many years, the $100,000 threshold.
Okay. Any discussion on this?
Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry. Chair Long, did you have?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to let House members know I support the motion.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor on the House side, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion carries on the House side. All those in favor on the Senate, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries on the Senate. The motion is adopted. Senator St. John.
Mr. Chair, then if we could go to page R59 and R60.
Okay.
And when you are ready there, to lines 249.23 to 250.9, I would move adoption of those lines. It has to do with the tribal school eligibility for the Solar on Schools program.
That might be R60, actually. Can you check with Bobby Law? Oh, it ends up R60.
That would be So the motion is to adopt section 7,
Yeah, R59 to R60.
starting on
Yep.
page R59, lines 249.23 on the House bill to line 250.9 on page R60.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, could somebody explain the amendment?
I'm sorry, I didn't have my microphone on. Senator Senjum, I thought he did, but one more time, please.
Mr. Chair and members, Senator Dames, it makes, if you will, a tribal school eligible for the Solar in Schools program. They heretofore were not.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Representative Long,
I just wanted to let members know I support the motion as well.
thank you. All right, we'll take a vote on the House side. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries on the House side. On the Senate, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes on the Senate. The motion is adopted.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Senjum.
Mr. Chair, then we would move to page R81. This has to do with community transition grants, and move to adopt lines 7.23 to 8.11.
Okay. Members, on page R81, Senator Senjum proposes section 3 of the Senate bill, line 7.22 to line 8.11. Senator Senjum, do you want to just explain the motion very quickly?
Sure. Mr. Chair, this is a motion to provide for a program that will assist host cities of major utilities in the way of community development grants, such that it gives them, if you will, some level of a new opportunity relative to community development vis-a-vis these grants, which I believe are $500,000 per year, no more than that.
Okay. Any questions?
Up till, Mr. Chair, up till $3.5 million.
Up to 3.5 million. Great. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Representative Long.
I just wanted to mention that I support the motion.
Great, thank you. It's nice to see you on the Zoom. Any other questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll take the vote on the House side first. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries on the House. On the Senate side, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries in the Senate. The motion is adopted. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Then to move to page R108. Mr. Chair, lines, move to adopt then line, the Senate version, line 8.12 to 8.26. 8.12 to line 8.26.
Okay,
And this is cold weather rule reporting, and it just has to do with the new dates for reporting. The date's slightly adjusted. This is a recommendation that comes to us from the agency.
okay, members, the motion is on page R108 to adopt section 5, beginning at line 8.12 on the Senate side of the bill to line 8.26. Representative Long?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support this motion as well.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussions on the motion?
9.4.
Seeing none, we'll take the vote on the House side. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries on the House. On the Senate, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries on the Senate. The motion is adopted. Senator Senjum.
Mr. Chair, then, if I would ask you to move to the page R115. This has to do with telecommunication reports to the Department of Commerce and an adjustment in those dates. And so move to adopt on the Senate side lines 28.22 to 28.28.
Any questions on the motion? Representative Long?
This one's actually Representative Stevenson's.
Sorry to throw you for a loop, Mr. Chair. I also support this motion.
Thank you. Jurisdiction, it's always fun to coordinate between the House and the Senate. Any other questions or discussions on the motion? Take the vote on the House first. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries on the House. With the Senate, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries on the Senate. The motion is adopted. Senator Senjum?
Mr. Chair, moving on to the next page then, R116. The motion is to accept the House language, lines 309.1 to 309.14. And this has to do with the decommissioning of the Oak Park Heights electrical generation plant.
Thank you, Senator Senjum. Before we get to Representative Long, are there any questions on the amendment? Okay, seeing none. Representative Long?
I support the amendment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Long. No other discussion. We'll take the vote on the House. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the House. All those in favor in the Senate signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries in the Senate. The motion is adopted.
Mr. Chair, the last one, staying on page R116 and moving into R117, and this has to do with the Tribal Advocacy Council, the creation thereof, such a council. It's a permissive advocacy, at least with respect to the whether or not the Department of Commerce does it or not. In other words, it's a may instead of a must. That was one of the things we negotiated. So on lines, Senate side, lines 3.1.1 to lines 3.1.30, I would move adoption of that language.
Okay, Senator Senjum moves adoption of Section 29 in the Senate bill, lines 31.1 through 31.30. Any additional questions or discussion on this motion? Which chair from the House side would like to take this one on?
I would, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Long.
I support the motion.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll take the vote on the House side first. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries in the House. And the Senate, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries in the Senate. The motion is adopted.
Mr. Chair, that
Senjum.
concludes my motions for today.
Thank you, Senator Senjum. Before we adjourn, nonpartisan staff is authorized to make any, I move that nonpartisan committee staff is authorized to make any technical changes necessary to reflect the will of the committee. Is there any objections to the motion? Seeing none, all those in the House signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries in the House. All those in the Senate signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries in the Senate. The motion is adopted. Before we adjourn, I'd like to ask Commissioner Robertson if she would come to the testifiers table just briefly. Thank you, Commissioner Robertson. Commissioner Robertson, we had some discussion this morning. I'd like to, and I talked to Chair Nord before asking you to talk to us today. You contacted, I believe, both of us to talk about a provision in the frontline worker bill. Could you please explain the changes that you're looking for in the frontline worker bill?
I contacted you on Sunday evening to talk about some concerns that the agency had become aware of. And basically, the concern we had was as we develop our process for administering the distribution of the frontline worker pay, it has come to our attention that, of course, certain, the frontline worker pay has its limits. The work group looked at the industries of workers that should be considered. Throughout the work group time together in the 11 meetings that we had, we talked about frontline workers from the context of those workers that worked in employment the traditional employment relationship, those individuals having an employer. That said, we took the approach that those workers would have to meet certain specific criteria in order to be considered for frontline worker pay. With that, we continue to receive numerous inquiries on a daily basis. Is this group covered? Is that group covered? Is my industry covered? We have begun to receive inquiries from in-home licensed daycare providers. And although we certainly recognize the valuable contributions that in-home daycare providers provided during the most difficult months of COVID, those individuals, with a rare exception, meet the definition of an employee. That said, that group of workers would not be included in frontline worker pay.
Thank you. Commissioner, can you specifically, and I know I'm catching you on short notice here, could you specifically tell us where in the bill we have that gap?
Where in the bill that we have that?
I believe there's some question of whether or not those workers are covered or not. Oh, thank you. I keep
Sure.
forgetting. I keep forgetting to turn on my microphone. Can you point to where you believe that gap is or where we would need to fill that gap?
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Representative Nord.
if it's possible, I think we do have the nonpartisan staff. I'm sure the commission doesn't have the bill in front of
Yeah,
us.
I
So
don't.
nonpartisan staff can cover that section if possible.
I'd be happy to do that too. I didn't mean to catch the commissioner off guard. Would that be Ms. Shalene?
Chair and members, Anna Shalene, House Research. I believe the issue is that the bill, the frontline workers payments are made only to workers, whereas the in-home daycare providers are the employer and business owner only. They don't work for someone else.
Thank you.
That, Mr. Chair, that's correct. And there's nothing in the bill that says in-home daycare providers are not covered. However, in looking at the totality of the language, and we know that through discussion, the law does contain provisions that the employer must provide notices to individuals in the named industries. And so the statute set up obligations for who the employer is. And so there isn't anything that says with strong clarity that this group is not covered, but in reading the totality of it, understanding that in order for us to verify income, we have to have a named employer. So it is through the reading of the entire law that we come to the conclusion that it was not intended for this group of workers, although we do recognize they did make a valuable contribution.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as I understand it, this was the intent of the working group to have these folks included.
Mr. Chair, it was the intent of the working group that this frontline worker pay be provided to workers in the more traditional employment relationship with an employer.
Thank you. Commissioner, also, you and I had a quick conversation around fraud, and I understand you're working on some fraud detection procedures. Can you talk about that as well?
Mr. Chair, I would be happy to. Really, since our last discussion, even in the conference committee, where we had discussions about fraud prevention, this has been an issue that is of great concern to the agency. Labor and Industry have continued to work very closely with DEED and the Department of Revenue as we continue to develop our protocol for the administration. So some of the features that we are looking at will include both technology controls as well as individuals performing random sampling to ensure that those individuals making application are in fact the individuals that are intended to receive frontline worker pay. So to begin with, our vendor will utilize knowledge-based authentication, and that means that the application will use this KBA to prove the applicant's identity. The process will require basic information factors such as the name, address, social security number, date of birth, which will be used to compile knowledge questions. The KBA will determine the applicant to pass or fail based on that initial request. We will continue the process. So the applicants that cannot pass the knowledge-based authentication, those individuals, we will utilize additional processes to determine their eligibility. Documents that would support an individual's eligibility might include their passport, their ID card, a driver's license, or a resident permit. And then comparing that picture to the applicant face through a live webcam or camera phone, we will be able to authenticate that individual's identity. Additionally, Labor and Industry will provide file transfers to both the Department of Revenue and DEED that will further verify individuals. So we will provide a batch orders to Revenue to determine whether or not the individuals meet the income requirements or individuals are within the income requirements. And then for DEED, we will also provide weekly file transfers so that DEED can verify whether or not individuals received less than 20 weeks of unemployment. The vendor that we will be using will perform automated deduplication activity to ensure that artificial intelligence is not making random applications. So we will go through a process to ensure that there aren't any duplicates included in the final group of workers that will be basically certified to, yes, they meet all of the criteria. Additionally, all applicants will be required to certify that the applicant meets the eligibility criteria. So even at first glance, individuals make an application for frontline worker pay will have to certify, I am who I am. I did work at least 120 hours in close proximity to others. I did not receive more than 20 weeks of unemployment. So at that self-certification section, there will be a strong statement indicating that if a false claim for payment is submitted, the worker or the applicant may be charged with an attempt to commit theft of public funds or other appropriate penalties. Also, the application will require that applicants provide the name and contact information for their relevant employers. This goes back to the earlier conversation. And so individuals will have to indicate who did they work for during the time period that is covered by frontline worker pay. Additionally, the application will also require an authorization from the applicants for the state to contact those employers. Additionally, there will be an account validation. The payment vendor will provide a service that verifies if a bank account number is registered and that there is a link between the routing number and the accounting number. If the account cannot be validated, the payment will not be processed. Then internally at Labor and Industry, we're in the process of hiring a number of staff whose primary responsibility will be to verify the relationship between the applicant and the named employer. We are working with our research and statistics unit to develop what would be the protocol that would support that a reliable sample is being taken. Additionally, we will continue that process from the beginning of the application process all the way through to post payout. So we're looking at this for the long haul, and we will include as many provisions as possible. Chair Pratt, I do apologize that we were not more prepared to engage you at the time of your request, but as I indicated, we've not finalized these provisions. We are continuing to work on them, so they're not full and final. We are as concerned about fraud in this area as you are, and it is our commitment that we will do everything that we can to both balance the need to prevent fraud as well as providing the support to the eligible applicants. Ultimately, we want to ensure that we are being as responsible with this public resource. But of course, we want to create a positive user experience for the applicants. This is an opportunity to say thank you to those workers. And we want to just manage the process as quickly as we can in order to be expeditious in getting the payment out the door, but also being mindful that this is a lot of public trust that Labor and Industry Indeed and the Department of Revenue is responsible for. So we want to handle that accordingly.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I appreciate, boy, I appreciate the level of detail that you've been able to provide, because I did kind of catch you without much warning, and I appreciate your willingness to share that. If I were to just summarize some of what you said, your vendor will be using knowledge-based authentication, which goes to identity, which goes to identity theft prevention.
Correct.
For those of you that don't know, I spent about 10 years in fraud prevention, so I know some of these tools very well. We're going to do a cross-check against the unemployment insurance system. We're going to do a check against the wages paid. We're going to do a check against duplicate applications. And it sounds like we're also going to do a check to ensure that the employer that they state they have had verifies their employment, which I think is right along the lines of what we wanted and proposed back when we passed this bill. I think it was, oh my gosh, it was April 29th or 30th. And and I've asked the commissioner specifically for language that would be supportive. While I agree, my concern has always been that bad people lie, and if you ask them to certify if the information is true, they'll say yes, even if it's not. But Chair Knorr, did you have?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I wanted to thank the Commissioner for the thorough process of that explanation. In fact, you also included the application process in how we're going to be looking into. You also included the account validation, which is really critical, and also including the statistical sample. On top of that, we are asking the legislative auditor to start looking into the process as soon as we're ready to it. So we're putting all the guardrails. In fact, if anybody's thinking of committing fraud in this process, then they're in the wrong place.
Okay. Any others? Senator Frantz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. If I could go back to the question of in-home daycare providers, I just want to thank you for raising the issue. I know we're talking about the letter, but the spirit of the frontline worker pay most definitely includes those in-home providers for whom the service is essentially identical to the centers. So I look forward to working with you and all the other conferees on that. And thank you again, Commissioner, for raising that. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Representative Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think on that note, on the family base, I've been in conversation with our colleagues in HHS. So the goal, because they're really connected to Health and Human Services, I've asked them to include the family childcare workers in that conference. I'm hopeful that you can all ask them to make sure that they're included in there. So that's the target. So we don't want to leave them out, and the chairs are looking forward to adding them to that conference. So hopefully the Senate side will accept what the proposals come from the House side.
Well, and as we talked about this morning, Mr. Chair, I believe we are not in agreement with that strategy and are looking more to follow what the commissioner has stated. So we'll have further discussions on that. But thank you for those comments, Senator Frantz. Senator Frantz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could, I understand the question about where those might land. I think the average in-home daycare provider doesn't know the difference between an HHS conference committee and a Studebaker. But I do know this: if they are not accounted for, then we will have failed the category of Minnesotans who were instrumental in our COVID response. And so I look forward to the discussion, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chair Knorr, as well.
Thank you. And Commissioner, we're looking forward to your recommendations on fraud before we close up the conference committee, so hopefully we can get that in a way that you can support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and I know I caught you off guard, but thank you. You were very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Any other business that needs to come before the committee? Okay, Chair Nora, did you want to talk about next meetings?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I think we accomplished we made some progress today, and we would like to see if we can continue to do the progress that we've seen today. So hopefully tomorrow we'll have some few things if we can move forward. Otherwise, we will have our scheduled meeting to the call of the chair.
Okay. Before we adjourn, for anybody that's here in person yesterday, there was a passport that was found in the room after we cleared out. It's at Capitol Security if you need to claim it. With that, we stand adjourned till Wednesday, May 18th, to the call of the chair.